Hi Cancer, this is your 2022 overview for the year ahead. In this forecast, I'm going to cover just the main transits or the stronger ones that I think are pretty important. Of course, there are a lot of other planets doing things this year, but these are just ones that I thought were pretty important. And yeah, I didn't want to make the video too long. So this video is for specifically Cancer rising, as that is the strongest, then Cancer sun, and then some moon signs resonate, especially I think if you're a night chart, moon signs will resonate. So but I also recommend if you have a stellium, like a lot going on in Cancer in your chart or in the fourth house, also check out this video because you may resonate with some of the themes I'm going to talk about. So the first thing we're going to talk about is Venus retrograde in Capricorn. This is an ongoing transit. Venus went retrograde in Capricorn December 19th of 2021, and she remains there and will stay there until January 29th of this year. Then she's going to stay direct in Capricorn all the way through March 6th. So we have a long time with Venus here in Capricorn, and so that's pretty notable. So for you, Cancer, Venus has been retrograde in your seventh house. So Venus rules love, money, finance, beauty, self-worth, self-love, all that good stuff. And the seventh house is the house of our relationships, particularly our marriage, but also any contractual relationships we have. So that can be business or otherwise. One-to-one conscious chosen relationships are in here. So there could be more conflicts in love and money, especially if there have been issues that haven't been resolved. What Venus retrograde will do is bring them up so that you can resolve them and move through them. So a lot of past issues, especially if you're in a partnership marriage with someone where there have been any type of issue, really, that's going to be back on the table. For some people, maybe even some legal or contractual issues, and that could be with business as well. So you're going to be reevaluating your needs and wants in relationships. It's not advised to break up on a Venus retrograde. Specifically, I mean, definitely your marriage, but any contractual relationship, just because it most likely wouldn't last. Just because when Venus goes retrograde, we're not really seeing things clearly. So unless it's been a long time coming and you want to end this contractual agreement, or it's been, on and off again, then it could be okay. But typically I would just wait until March 6th when you're going to have a lot more clarity. It is a great time for couples counseling. It's like whether you have relationship issues or not, it's a really great time just because it is in that seventh house. You could do a lot of healing. I always recommend people to just have extra compassion for your partner at this time when when Venus is retrograding your seventh house, just because both of you are not seeing things clearly in love. Again, this is for your love relationship, but as well as any one-to-one relationship or business partner. Just because there is just the likeliness for more tension to arrive and more disagreements. Singles may struggle with self-worth and self-esteem issues now, or they just might be really thinking about, what do you need in a partnership? What do you want in a partnership? What are your values? And if you are dating, do these people align with those values? Individual counseling is also really recommended, as it would be a really helpful way to explore these feelings. So yeah, not only is it a great time to face issues within a partnership, but also within yourself. Like, what are some blocks that you have when it comes to having the relationship you want and having harmony within those relationships? Because like I said, healing can definitely occur if you're willing to do the work. So yeah, by March 6th, you're going to have a lot more clarity about relationships, contractual agreements, legal matters. And if you've wondered whether to stay or leave, you may feel more confident and certain in what direction you need to go in. Another thing that Venus retrograde can do, it can bring an old contract back on the table, or like maybe you were going to sign a contract and do a new job or something, and then it didn't work out. If an old thing comes back, it's definitely a really good time to maybe explore that. The same goes for old relationships. So old relationships may come back on the table. I wouldn't recommend, getting married or anything, but it's definitely a really great time to explore those. The next transit I want to talk about is a really fun one, and that is where Jupiter is. So, Jupiter has moved into Pisces and will remain there until May 10th, and then dips out of Pisces and goes and hangs out in Aries from May 10th to October 28th, and then we'll go back into Pisces from October 28th until December 20th. So, now through May, Jupiter is in your ninth house. So, I feel anywhere Jupiter goes, it's great because we get some expansion and luck in that area. But Jupiter is really comfortable in the ninth house. So this means luck, expansion, and growth in all ninth house topics. So, like academia, higher learning, so like a master's degree, a PhD, teaching, mentoring, foreign anything. So, foreign travel, foreign cultures, foreign, business, legal matters, and law in general, religion, spirituality. It's also the house of it's the house of faith, right? So our overall outlook on life, and this is going to just help you be more optimistic and just positive. Like, you're just going to feel this Sagittarian kind of zest within you. You might even take on that persona a little bit. Many people will feel hungry for knowledge when Jupiter is in the ninth house. Even people who are like, I don't want to go to school, you might find something that just fascinates you or have the opportunity to go back to school, and it would be a really great time to do that. You would benefit long term from this. And some even say when Jupiter tours whatever house, whatever seeds we plant, we can, we don't have to wait 12 years to have the benefits from that. But a lot of people say, like astrologers, that 12 years, like, you're going to really see those rewards. So if you went to school, you would benefit long term. So yeah, you might pursue a higher education. You might become a teacher or a mentor. You could find a teacher or a mentor that would be pivotal in changing your perspective on life. If you want to do some travel, specifically long distance travel, this is a very excellent time. Of course, consider COVID, but you might be able to, find your ways around that, or visit places where the restrictions are not as strict. If you do foreign travel, I hate saying that, but if you go on some foreign travel expedition, you will learn a lot. Like, it will expand your mind, and you might even meet that mentor or teacher abroad, and they would inspire you. The opposite can also happen, that you become a teacher or mentor and inspire them. If you have a following, you could increase that. If you have a message to send, this would be a wonderful time to put that out there. If you're an author, this is a great time to publish now through May. Get it out there. Do your best to put it out there, because this is just wonderful energy to do that. So I think that kind of just summarizes. We could talk about Jupiter in the ninth house all day long, but that's just a little bit. If you have a legal issue, it could go particularly well, or if you are a lawyer, you might see you do really well with cases and stuff like that. But so Jupiter will dip into Aries from May through October, those dates that I listed, and this is going to be in your 10th house. So during this little snippet, you're going to get a sneak peek of what most of 2023 will be like. So this is expansion, growth, and luck in your career. The 10th house sits at the top of the chart. So this is like the 9th house is out there too, but the 10th house is like top of the chart. So you might get a bonus, a promotion. You might take on a new role, maybe even a role that's quite high up. So you'd have more status, and as a result, more money. Authority figures can favor you, or you can take on the role of an authority figure. This is a wonderful time if you are in the public eye, because this will just boost your image. Others might actually just think you're really lucky in career because you're going to get some lucky breaks. If you're retired or not working, this still applies to you. So this can be a boost in just how you're viewed to others. Like maybe you were a stay-at-home parent and now you're like taking charge of, this cause or this group, or it could be anything. Definitely, if you want to raise May through October, I think the dates are on the screen. But between these times, it's a really good time to ask for a raise and take career risks. And yeah, I think that if any Cancer, specifically risings, are feeling blocked in their career or lost, know that this is a really great time. And I think you're going to see a lot of gain during this time in your career. The next transit I want to talk about is Saturn. Saturn is quite opposite from Jupiter, where Jupiter expands, Saturn restricts. So Saturn has been in Aquarius for quite some time, over a year now, I believe, and will stay in Aquarius until March 2023. And this is in your 8th house. So this is a long-term trend that you've been dealing with. So the 8th house is pretty heavy. Saturn is a malefic, so it's not a pleasant house, but my hope is with some guidance to really help you utilize this energy to make it count and to make it less challenging. So let's talk about the 8th house first. So the 8th house is pretty deep. We have sex here, we have intimacy, we have death, transformation, debt, taxes, other people's stuff and resources, other people's traumas, your trauma, deep psychology, anything in the occult. So astrology, tarot, mysticism, anything that's hidden. So like research is here too. Or just things that are not kind of consciously on your awareness or in your awareness. Power and power struggles. So this can mean a number of things, Cancer. So you might be reviewing your sexuality or sex issues. Saturn is going to put pressure here. So, like, for example, if you have been in a relationship where you're not getting your needs met emotionally or sexually, Saturn's going to make that apparent. For some, this means you got to go to counseling and do some work, like a sex therapist or a couples therapist, or maybe individual to explore your own desires and if there has been sexual trauma or something that's preventing you from connecting deeper with someone, to process that and deal with it so that you can have more intimacy within your close partnerships. For some, it's going to show you where it's this person is not going to be able to provide you with what you need, and that your time has come. So if you've been in a relationship where there have been some issues ongoing, it doesn't mean that it's going to be over. Saturn will challenge you to make it work, and if you do the work, you can come out much stronger. Like, you can transform your emotional life, you can transform your sexual life. But for some people, Saturn will show you it's time to go. You'll know more closer to when Saturn leaves, March 2023. So if you are feeling challenged in these areas, just know that you have some work to do. And if you do the work, it's going to be a lot easier than if you just kind of hope that it just resolves on its own. Saturn isn't going to reward you unless you put in the work. Another big theme is other people's resources. So there might be blocks with other people's resources. So that could be alimony. That could be a partner's income. Maybe your partner's income stops, or they get a pay cut, or your alimony is no longer, you don't get it anymore, or something like that. For people that are younger, maybe your parent cuts you off and now you have to, go out and fend for yourself. So I always encourage people prior to Saturn going into the 8th house to deal with some of the stuff, because Saturn can just make it really uncomfortable. So deal with your intimacy issues. Do not go into Saturn in the 8th house with debt. Saturn can help you pay off debt, especially if it's positively aspected. It can definitely help you just put in the hard work to pay off debt. But it can also increase the pressures surrounding debt. So pressure surrounding intimacy, joint finances, even your sense of control, right? because the eighth house is about, power and power struggles. So all these issues might, come to the surface, and you might need to reassess what your relationship is in these matters. Other things I've seen are like issues receiving inheritance, or maybe just getting a larger tax bill than you thought. If you do have a lot of debt, you're definitely going to feel the pressure to deal with this. But on the positive, yep, you can pay it down. But some questions to ask yourself are, what do you value and need when it comes to intimate partnerships? What psychological issues do you need to process to connect more intimately with another? How are you using or abusing your power in relationships? And are you relying too much on other people's resources? So these are some things to consider. Similar to Saturn in the seventh, this is a great time to do therapy, individuals or couples, to deal with any psychological stuff, any blocks to intimacy, sexual connection. Even seeing like a tax person or like a financial counselor would be a good idea. Be very careful if you take on a mortgage or some type of debt at this time, because it doesn't mean like doom and gloom, but just be careful about things like that. It's not typically the best time to take on more. But yeah, face your fears, deal with those issues. For some also, there might be a fear of death. Like you might become aware of your own mortality. But again, Saturn's doing this to help you. So go to therapy, explore that. Put in a life insurance policy. Like these issues might come up because you need to put some safety nets in place. So by March 6th, there will be a bit more clarity around some of these matters, if any of these things resonate for you. For some, it just might be, like, I don't know, this is like the detective house, right? So maybe you're like a detective and you're really struggling to solve a case. I mean, it could be something like that, but usually I see it around like intimacy issues and money. But yeah, if you're someone who's afraid to go deep, this is not going to be comfortable, because Saturn's going to force you to just examine those deepest parts of you, your emotional attachments, your sense of power, things like that. So it's pretty intense. Now, not the easiest transit, but what I really love for you, Cancer, is that remember, Jupiter is in your ninth house. So Jupiter is really blessing you in terms of your perspective. So I feel like despite this challenge here with Saturn in the eighth house, you're still going to have this higher faith and trust. And I think that energy is really going to help you through this. And ultimately, you can come out of this totally transformed for the better and with a lot less baggage than before. And that is financially and emotionally. Now, the other transit I want to talk about is Mars in Aquarius. Now, this isn't a very long transit, but the reason I want to talk about it is because we also have Saturn there. So Saturn's a malefic. We have Saturn sitting in your eighth house, and now we're going to have Mars in the eighth house. So that's pretty notable. There's going to be a concentration in the eighth house, specifically around March 7th to April 14th. So write those dates down. Just be mindful of those dates. Because Mars, it doesn't have to be bad, but Mars is a malefic. So Mars can add tension and some conflict. But let's talk about the positives first. So the positives of Mars are like drive, ambition, energy, right? So you might have the drive and ambition to resolve some psychological trauma, paying old debts, right? You might just be super motivated. You might be motivated to enhance your connection with your partner. And actually your sex life can get a boost because Mars is very sexual, and has a lot of energy. So this can enhance your sex life, especially if channeled well. But the downsides of Mars are conflict, war. Mars inflames. Mars is very competitive and aggressive. So more money might be going out than coming in at this time. Wherever Mars goes, like when Mars is in a money house, I often see that. There might be conflicts with anyone you do finances with, whether that's like an ex-partner, a business partner, like a bank, right? There may be the potential for more power struggles and fights within intimate relationships or power struggles. I mean, if badly aspected, it can bring a crisis of some sort. However, you still have Jupiter in the ninth that's going to help you push through. And this transit isn't long. So if there is a lot of stress around March 7th to April 14th, just know that it's not going to last. And knowing that this might happen, you can kind of prepare yourself before you move into this energy. I always advise people with Mars, know where Mars is in your chart and know how to channel the energy. Mars physical activity is really good. In the case of the eighth house, like, you know, taking out that physical energy through being intimate with your partner, right? Take it out in the bedroom versus fighting. That's another way that you can utilize Mars. The last thing I want to say about Mars is Mars represents cutting, like literally cutting. So, I mean, this isn't in a physical house. So, I mean, if it was, I would be cautious about like hurting yourself. But, you know, you can be very aggressive with your words and you could cut people out. So just be careful about that. The other part of this forecast I want to talk about is Uranus going direct in Taurus, January 18th. And this is in your 11th house. So this has been a long transit. Uranus, I think Uranus went into Taurus in, I think it was like spring of 2018. And he's been retrograding back and forth. But when he goes direct, he just has more power. He can do more. So the 11th house is your house of friendships, groups. So any group, a humanitarian group, a political group, you know, your sewing group. It can be any group, literally. Uranus rules technology, and as well as the 11th house is the house of gains. So your long-term goals and visions. So this can come up a few ways. You might meet unusual, quirky friends or become part of a group that's really outside social norms. So like an astrology group or something like that. You will want more freedom in your friendship because Uranus is very liberating. He wants freedom. So in any group or friendship you belong to, you're going to want that, but you're going to really embrace everyone else's uniqueness, which I think is really cool. If you are on social media with followers, you may feel more rebellious or confident to like express who you really are, or you might want to shock some people. You could make a lot of new friends, but because Uranus is like Aquarius ruled, right? It's a very Aquarian energy. They might not be deeply like close, but I mean, that's okay too. Your long-term goals and visions for the future may dramatically change and maybe even suddenly that you just realize, I want to do this. And you might shock people, even yourself. But ultimately, you might be, you know, you could be drawn to really quirky friends and realize your future goals have changed in some way. Okay, so the last part I want to talk about for you, Cancer, is, you know, the eclipse, or the eclipses, I should say. So there are eclipses this year in Taurus and Scorpio. So the North Node is transiting through Taurus and the South Node is transiting through Scorpio. For you, the North Node is transiting in your 11th house and the South Node is transiting through your 5th house. So we're going to see a high concentration around 11th house matters this year because of that. So you are being called to learn how to be part of a group or a larger cause versus going at it alone. So maybe not the best year to start your own business and do something alone. It would be good to network with others and do something together. You might have the opportunity to work in any 11th house area. So I mean, technology is there, groups, social groups, like I think social work is one thing I think about when I think of the 11th house, but I mean, it's not the only thing. You're definitely being asked to let go of just being in the spotlight and learning how to share with others. Your social groups will expand a lot this year. So if you're on social media, this is a wonderful time to grow your following, or if you network, this would help your career. You might meet notable friends who change your life course or are just very fated for you. And I think that you're going to see a lot more growth towards your long-term goals and vision, and you know, it is the house of gain. So you might see some fated events happen that help you achieve those goals and dreams. So networking is also really recommended, just because, and you might just have opportunities to network. So yeah, I hope that that was helpful. This is just a snippet. There's so much more. We could talk about this for hours, but this is just kind of a snippet of what the year will be like. I've listed the dates of the eclipses, so yes, this is like an ongoing thing for the year, but just know that around these dates, that energy is more concentrated, like in that the 11th and 5th house. So there we go. So I hope that you enjoyed that. Please like, share, subscribe, comment if some of this has been helpful, or if you've already noticed some things. I love to hear from people, and just, yeah, stay tuned for some more videos.